Bonjour, mon amis, let's jaunt. I don't really plan to edit this video much at all, so I'm just going to dive into it. Now, recently, over the past couple weeks, details of what the new iteration of Street Fighter 4 is going to contain has been, had it in the rumor mill. You know, okay, we're going to have these couple things, and then finally those rumors were confirmed to not be rumors at all, that they were actually true. So what we're getting is a red focus system, which apparently the way it works, you're going to burn bar to be able to absorb multiple amounts of hits. They never said how many, but from the looks of it, it may be unlimited. While at the same time, you take more damage than you would normally when you're in the focus, and then plus it's still a focus attack, so the same weaknesses apply. You know, throws, armor breakers, stuff like that. They're just not going to work in terms of you absorbing the hit. And also the ability to have two ultras with the characters, while with the trade-off of it being that they do less damage as the trade-off. And they also said that a new system mechanic is going to be revealed very soon. And the way they teased it at first, they had us thinking it was the fifth character, which, by the way, has not been revealed, has not even been hinted. In fact, they haven't really talked much about the game since they unveiled it a few months back. But, you know, instead of going through this long list of things of what I think they should do and what I would like for them to do, I'll do this. I didn't make an official list. This is right off the top of my head, but I'm just going to go into what I think they don't need. Number one, we do not need any more gauges. We don't need any more gauges. Every good fighting game has at least, or at the most, 3 gauges. Health bar, special meter a special meter or whatever, like EX moves and whatnot, and then like maybe some miscellaneous bar. I mean, look at KOF 13, look at Guilty Gear, look at BlazBlue. Look at the other iterations of Street Fighter. Hell, even look at any random SNK fighter. They never have any more than 3 bars. 3 bars is ridiculous enough to look at, because it's not just 3 bars you're looking at. You're looking at 3 bars of yours, and then you got 3 bars that you have to pay attention to of your opponents. So that's 6 bars. Then yeah, there's Marvel, but they're health bars. And I mean, that within itself, aside from everything else and all the other craziness that goes on in those games, is so much to even keep track of, aside from the assist. And I'm not even going to get into that, but yeah, you get me. So when I say gauges, I mean, yeah, that means guard crush. We do not need guard crush in this game, and I will explain to you why we do not need guard crush in this game. Guard crush, for those that didn't know, or guard break, whatever you want to call it, guard crush was an aspect that was originally in Street Fighter Alpha 3, in which if the character was in a block stun, they had this gauge that would go down according to how many hits or whatever that would be blocked, and then eventually the gauge would say danger, and then once it went completely depleted, your guard broke and you were open for attack, and then your gauge filled back up, but it was also smaller than before, and it also varied from character to character. Now, the other gauge they had other than that was the stun gauge, which was in Street Fighter 3, but there was always set stun values. They were a bit inconsistent over the Street Fighter 2 iterations of the game because they had a lot of balance issues, but stun was always there. Same with Street Fighter 4. Go in training mode and hit your opponent and look at the attack data. There's your stun bar. I mean, you may not be able to see it, but I mean, how do you really need a meter that say, hey, you've taken way too many hits, and if you don't start blocking, defending yourself, you're going to be in trouble pretty soon? A stun bar wouldn't necessarily be necessary, but I mean, it wouldn't really help or change the core elements of the game for the better. Same with guard crush. When it was in Alpha 3, it was perfectly implemented despite all the balance issues the game had. The system mechanics of the game made it so that it was legit, because a lot of people forget that, yeah, there were the 3 isms, but the main ones they were trying to push were the A and the V, the V being the newest one. You had air blocking, and then you had air throws, and then you had air techs. And then plus back then, whiffing throws built a meter. And then you had the custom combo system, which granted you invulnerability on activation, along with eliminating the need to do charge moves for characters that would do that. And you also had the alpha counter with multiple different supers. I mean, everybody was open-ended. Everybody could do nearly what any other character could do. So because of the custom combo system and other system mechanics, and then you had the roll on top of that. With all of that, Guard Crush, I was perfectly fine with that. But in this game, no. Because the game's slower, and then plus people are going to exploit the fact that, oh yeah, I got perfect block strings with my perfect brain data mindset, and it's degenerate to the overall fun of the game. The game is going to die real quick if you have a Guard Crush meter in there. Now, yeah, it may piss off a lot of people for hearing me say that. It may piss off a lot of people if they make the game and it's not in there. But I guarantee you, it's not really necessary. It would hurt the game unless they gave us like an alpha counter, which they successfully did in Cross Tekken, and it could work in this game. Just make it so that we have to burn a bar for it. We don't really need a Guard Crush. It's enough that we have the focus attack and then armor breakers to balance that out, along with the focus working the way that it does, with counter hits and crumple stun and whatnot. Guard Crush would just... We already have unblockable moves. We now have a way. We would now have a way to break someone's guard by putting them in a constant block string. Yeah, okay, it's psychological pressure allows you to be more offensive, but you know, not everybody should have to play offensively just because everybody else prefers that style of play. All style of play should be promoted and warranted. People should not have to work their ass off ridiculously because of system elements that some characters take advantage of better, leading me to the next thing I think they should either do or get rid of. Number two, FADCing has to be balanced, and really and truthfully, it's the reversals. These characters, the characters that have moves that have invulnerability that can be FADC'd and the ultras or whatnot, they need to make it so that they only can be FADC'd on hit. Because that's the main reason why people don't play Oni. Now, yeah, there's this hype train building up for Oni as of lately because some top players are playing him. But Oni was always a good character. When Oni was first unveiled, I said to myself, well, there you go. You got what you wanted, if whether you liked it or not. A very gimmicky character, but he has a lot of options. A lot of options that, when utilized properly, can give you good results. And then they buffed him and gave him even more gimmicks. I mean, he has everything you could possibly think of. I mean, it's very seamy, but his combos ain't as hard, and then he does quite a bit of damage once he does FADCing. But people still don't play him because his Dragon Punch is not safe. But everybody else will play other characters because aside from the reversal window being a lot bigger, and then you got input leniency and shortcuts. Yeah, characters that can do like the Shoryuken or the Cannon Spike, whatever. Characters, it's really just a couple. And Cammy, you already know what I'm talking about. That's beside the point. They're going to have a potential advantage over characters that can't do it, like Vega or Bison or Dudley. I mean, Dudley, he's got to burn bar to even have invulnerability. And then to make it safe, he's got to burn 2 more bars. Same with Rufus. They got to have 3 bars to have a safe way. I mean, yeah, it's gonna work. So now I'm not gonna outline the strengths of those characters, but at the same time, when you look at most tier lists, the characters that are going to be at the top are going to be the ones with invulnerable reversals that they can FADC. Now, either you make it so that they can't FADC on block, because that would kill the whole option select thing. And look, practice or no practice, fuck option selects. I don't like option selects. Yes, they're going to be in the game because the way the game is made. The option selects are basically playing off of how the game registers what you're trying to do in most instances. But as far as it being used by the player, while it being user controlled and manipulated, it's a game exploit. It takes away the mix-up and thinking aspect of the game. so that you are always in it. I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm not the only one that does not like the whole Okenzumi safe jump setups, along with them being option select. Charged characters cannot really do this that well, and even then, there are some characters that still can't do it as well. We've seen what option selects are. We know how they work. And they are undoubtedly very powerful. Now, there are ways to play around it, but in most instances, all you have to do is take that. But I mean, you're now on the defensive engine aspect of it. Whatever happened to me being able to do what I want and my opponent having to deal with that? It's not fair. I don't like option selects. You either change it so that the FADCs can only be done on hit, or you make it so that every character has a viable reversal that they can FADC that will connect in most instances. Otherwise, the whole power creep and balance issues that people complain about are going to still be there. Yeah, you got characters like Yoon that where, okay, he can't FADC, but he's got a vulnerability. So, I mean, and then he's got easy combos and all these mix-ups and setups and everything else that he wants and could possibly need to work in most instances. But other characters like Hakan and them, they suffer. This is the reason why people play Zangief in most instances when it comes to grapplers, because he's got a vulnerability, and plus it can be FADC, his command grab can be carved, and it's got so much range and damage, and now a stun increase with the green hand as well, which can be easily comboed. You gotta do something. You gotta change all of that. Now, let's see. What else could they potentially change? Oh yeah, make every character good. This whole matchup thing, I don't mind characters having weaknesses in certain matchups, but I'm kind of tired of these characters playing according to the matchup instead of the player being able to go, you know what, I can win this match even though it's tough. You know, I don't like watching matches like Guile versus Bison, or Blanca versus Tiog, or Balrog versus Blanca. You know what I'm saying? Just agonizing to watch, and you know who's going to win in most instances. The game has always been matchup oriented, but it's mitigated by the fact that the way they make these characters, you already know who their picks and selects are going to be. They claim to make these characters all good, but Capcom, I mean, in this iteration of Street Fighter, they've made these characters and pretty much set them and forget them. And then when people cried and begged for things to change, they had no choice but to do it. They did the same thing with Cross Tekken. They did the same thing with MVC3. And they've had multiple chances to make shit right, but they keep changing it, and I think I know why. And it's mainly because they make these games in a way to make people ask for more. Make it so that every character is good. There should not be this, oh, well, I have to work my ass off to lose against somebody who can do minimal effort to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, characters that are just inherently good, you don't have to do much to win with them. And then when you get good with them, then you really start winning. But characters that take a long time, let alone any amount of patience to get good with, you're going to lose with a lot. Now, yeah, it humbles you and it gets you prepared and it allows you to play differently than the usual crowd of Ryus and Kens and Akumas out there. But it's undoubtedly an uphill battle in most instances, especially if you don't have the things that most other characters have that would probably give you a hard time. Like, oh, I don't know, invulnerable reversals and high damage and ambiguous cross-up setups, you know, things like that. When your character doesn't have all that, and I know there's like 30 some characters, but even still, let's say, for the sake of argument, you're playing a character like Rose. Rose has no advantage over anybody in this game. Now, yeah, people say that Rose is a tough matchup for Guy, but at the same time, Guy has changed quite a bit from what he originally was in Street Fighter 4. So you can't say that. And in most instances, Guy can give Rose quite a bit of a hard time. And beside that matchup, what other advantages does Rose have over other characters aside from her just being a nice little footsie character? Nothing. That's why you hardly see any Rose characters. The next thing they should do is make it no special moves that are useless. Speaking of Rose, while it's on my mind, no special moves that are useless. Her Soul Reflect is basically, you know, if your opponent has no Fireball, the only other instance you would use this is like the Heavy Reflect into Soul Throw, and that's in the corner, or FADCing, assuming you're that desperate for damage. But I mean, other than that, you have to combo that from specific normals. And the other versions are useless. You can't even combo them. They're not safe on block. They have no invulnerability. Nothing. Like, it's just, and then they take so many frames of animation to finish. You can't cancel them into anything. Nothing. It's just, it's a mess. And then Cammy's Spin Knuckle. Now, yeah, she's a good character without it. But I mean, I don't like seeing characters with moves that are just kind of there and just hanging out, hoping to be noticed by people. I don't like that. It's one thing to have moves where, like, you don't typically use them, like Makoto's Fukiyage or Dudley's Thunderbolt, or hell, the Goken's Air Parry from his Demon Flip. But I mean, there are moves that have some sense of functionality in the matchup, whether you're used to seeing it or not. Same way, I mean, look at Oni's move list. I don't like seeing characters with moves that are just there, and nobody else does either. Ibuki has one of those moves. She has that little flip. I don't know the name of it. I refuse to pronounce it or look it up, but you know what I'm talking about. You do a dragon punch motion and a punch. It don't really do anything other than put you in the air, but she has a super jump, so what is the point? I understand that they were trying to be faithful to her third strike iteration, but once again, the move is just fucking there. It's not like a unique normal where it works a certain way. Like, look at Guile's unique normal list, or Hakan's unique normal list. Yeah, you may not see all of them, but they all have a particular function. In most instances for Guile, it's for, you know, if not anti-airs, then just control. I mean, look at his rolling Sobat. Well, not the rolling Sobat, you know what I'm talking about. The Sobat and the leg bazooka. Combine that with charging down back with his Sonic Boom. You will basically be able to move forward and backward while at the same time maintaining your charge. And then the reverse kick can be done up close or by holding forward or back while pressing the heavy. So when you get a hit, you can link that into a crouching medium into the Sonic Boom, or if you're good enough, hey, crouching medium to flash kick. You know, real bosses do that. But you know, all these moves, they have a purpose. And over the iterations, yeah, they had problems in terms of how they functioned, but they're fine-tuning them, and I hope that they do that for every character. I mean, like Blanca's overhead, for example. Yeah, surprise, Blanca has an overhead, but you would never know that if you didn't do any research, especially since I'm not a huge Blanca expert, but I've played quite a few of them, and I've messed around with him myself. The only thing that I really can't do are the piano motions. I can kind of do them, but I mean, look, people, these are piano hands, not necessarily, but not for an arcade stick, you know, and then I play stick. Yeah, you make every move viable to some instance. It'd be nice if every character had an overhead aside from their jump in, or at least a good cross-up. And I mean, Blanca has a good cross-up setups and everything, and good air-to-airs, but his overhead sucks. I mean, so does Honda's. It's got a lot of weird capabilities, but I mean, look at Sagat's. Sagat's overhead is fair. It's quick, it hits hard, it does the job. Just make everybody good. And I mean, there's so many other things. This is a very disorganized, disjointed list, people. But the final thing they should not do is make another one. As much as I like Street Fighter 4 and Capcom, and despite all their problems and the bad PR and all the shit that I've given them in previous videos and other conversations I've had with people and my thoughts, I'm a human being and I change my mind all the time, like anybody else. Now, I stick to some of my opinions, yes, But I think this is a widespread agreement that we do not want any more Street Fighter 4 games. This has to be the last one. I don't think it'll be the last one. But if it's gonna be the last one, do everything you were supposed to. And they didn't, and they're not going to do everything they're supposed to. They're going to do the things that they say and tell us that we're going to. But what I'm saying this to make a point. This has to end. This is what, like the 6th or 7th version of the game, depending on how you look at it. No more changes, no more updates, no more milking of DLC. Let this be it, and leave it alone. Set it and forget it. And I think that, you'd gain more respect from people if you did decide to do that, Capcom. But with Capcom being in the red, they love money far too much. So if they make another one, don't be surprised. But hey, I probably will not be buying it, because other than me being broke, me being black doesn't help that to be me any better. Au revoir, merci mon amis. Comment, rate, subscribe, send me the hate. I love it. Take it easy.